Chapter 4. The Law of Paradoxical Intent. The fourth universal law of success. The quantum field is just another label for the field of pure consciousness or pure potentiality. And this quantum field is influenced by intention and desire. Deepak Chopra. While surrendering is just one of the components of the law of pure desire, it's the energetic axis around which the four universal law revolves. This principle reveals exactly what happens when we allow urgency and need to become our major motivations. The desire for success is a natural and healthy endeavor, but it's our emotions around why we want it that determine its energetic nature. Trust is an easy, fluid vibration that brings results. Desperation is a broken, agitated vibration that stops them cold. When it comes to our pursuit of success, where does our fear come from? It originates in our dissatisfaction with what we have and who we are. We've become a must-have society. We see something advertised and we've got to get it. We notice our friends with a new item and we have to possess it ourselves. We become absolutely driven by dissatisfaction when we don't have what we want, and we're willing to go into debt, lose time with our families, and work unending hours just to have more and more. But what happens while we're desperately waiting to get what we want? We're projecting a terribly unattractive energy because not only do we feel dissatisfied, but we also feel deprived. We're constantly obsessed with what we lack, so much so that we become envious when we see others who have the more that we long for. Someone who owns a $100,000 home might drive by a $300,000 property and feel poor, but the person who owns the more expensive place could easily see a $600,000 home and also feel bad. The process goes on and on up the must-have ladder. And think of the energy such negative emotions create. Your personal energy field often vibrates with palpable agitation, longing, and despair. You may be sending out an unsettled and unattractive broadcast that the universe can't possibly respond with anything positive in return. This is the unyielding truth of the fourth universal law. You're bound to push away the very thing that you're desperate to have. The law of paradoxical intent reflects the law of magnetism in warning you that you'll only get a return of your own negative energy. If you're desperate to make something happen, that repulsive vibration will push it away, turning away the very people and situations that might bring your desired outcome. Your desperation, therefore, creates the paradox, or the opposite, of your original intention, leading you to failure instead of success. The universe wants you to achieve all that you desire, and when you align yourself with the law of success, it will do everything in its power to help you on your way. But desperation and urgency are deal breakers. This isn't because the universe wants to prolong your yearning. In fact, just the opposite is true. It wants you to enjoy your life and engage in a different, higher vibration now, and stop waiting for some vague happiness to come in the distant future. The best energy happens when you let go of urgency and engage in trust, when you rid yourself of despair and choose peace in the present instead. You simply can't be happy when you're living in dissatisfaction. When you're obsessed with what you don't have, you draw even more lack. You forgo present contentment by setting up a list of goals that you have to have in order to be happy in the future. In fact, until you have all those things, you feel a nagging sense of unhappiness. You feel as though something is missing, and you can't relax until you fill that void. Instead of enjoying your life and valuing what you have, you spend your time longing for more and constantly striving to get it. This is a very serious mistake where the laws of energy and consciousness are concerned. When you give away today's happiness to embrace misery about tomorrow's uncertainty, you shut down your willingness to receive. You shift from a mentality of appreciation to a consciousness of lack and need, and when you make that choice, you lose your power to succeed. This is no light matter. What happens when you filter everything you have through wanting something else? You set yourself up for failure by projecting a very unattractive energy of misery. Your need for something else to make you happy will always cause you to perceive your present situation as just not good enough. Think about the feelings that come from obsessing about what's wrong with your life. despair, grief, and longing are highly charged emotions, and they attract very difficult results. This abrasive energy is what sabotages your success. It's an irresistible force, and there's no way to get around the power of this law. If you pump out a broadcast of despair, your efforts will only draw back desperate situations and deeper feelings of hopelessness. The inescapable truth is that all of your feelings are charged with positive or negative vibrations. The uplifting ones create flow and wonderful results, while unhappiness creates blockage and problematic results. But you can change your emotions and your resonance by switching what you think and what you focus on. You must let go of urgency and engage in thoughts of trust in order to open the doors of magnetic attraction. Shift your concentration from what you lack to all that you have to appreciate in order to create a consciousness of success. Obsessing about what's missing in your life actually causes you to channel your energy into missing more. And if you're always complaining about what you don't have, it will only create more to whine about. You need to put your passion into experiencing how you want to feel right now so that you can magnetize more of that sensation in the future. This is called vibrational entrainment, and it's a must for being in harmony with this law. Think about the appreciation that you'll have at the fruition of your goals, and choose to feel that gratitude for what you have in your life right now. Getting past the paradox. Many people find letting go of urgency to be very difficult because they've attached so many emotional experiences to the hoped-for outcomes of their desires. They worry about whether they can handle it if their dreams don't ever come true. They fear that their desires are out of reach, and they'll never be able to accept that. But when you're engaging in these energies of paradoxical intent, the underlying predominant thought about your goal is, I can't be happy without this. And with that as your central belief, the inability to be happy actually becomes your reality. This is what happened to me when I was looking for a publisher for my first book, Secrets of Attraction. I had been teaching the principles of quantum physics and romantic attraction to clients seeking relationships for many years with amazing results. Eventually, I started teaching the ideas in seminars, and everywhere I went, people asked me where they could get a book on the subject. I didn't know of anything out there that applied the natural laws to romantic relationships, so I decided to write one myself. I put together a small, self-published book that I gave to my clients and sold at my seminars, but people started buying copies for their friends and asking if they were available anywhere else in the country. When the demand kept increasing, I decided to look into getting it published. That decision spawned a great deal of emotion within me, rekindling a long-held desire. The truth is that I wanted to write since I was about 12 years old. At that time, I'd read a book about a teenager living in East Berlin after the Second World War. It was full of pathos, yet touched with humor, and it made me laugh and cry. And the printed word had never before reached me in that way. I made the decision then that I wanted to write something that would touch people's lives. For this reason, I became very excited about getting my book published. But that wasn't the only emotion that came over me. I was also filled with anxiety and urgency about making it happen. I rewrote and edited the small volume that I'd self-published and added an outline for several more chapters to be put in the proposal. I actually had no trouble getting agents, but they certainly had trouble finding publishers. My first agent was very enthusiastic, certain that she'd get a sale right away. She sent it to the big publishers in New York City, and they all had pretty much the same reaction. It was dismissed as just another book about love, rejected because there are already too many relationship books out there. This was depressing, because I knew that in spite of the great number of books on love, not one of them had addressed the quantum physics of attraction. Almost every week I got a new rejection, and I found myself going deeper and deeper into despair. After being turned down about a dozen times, my first agent said that she had nowhere else to go. So I got another one, who tried another half dozen publishers, with exactly the same results. In time, she gave up too. At first, this sent me into a spiraling depression. My childhood dream of being published seemed to be on the skids. I wallowed in self-pity for a while, but I finally realized that I was engaging in the energies of paradoxical intent. In spite of my hope, I'd unknowingly embraced the belief that I couldn't be happy if I didn't make this happen. I was in the middle of conflicting intentions, so the book was going nowhere, and I was getting more and more miserable each day. I knew I had to do something about this. Every day I meditated on releasing my paradoxical intentions. I had to let go of the desperate need. But every time I affirmed that it would be okay if I didn't get published, I started to cry. I realized that I was grieving for the potential loss of my dream, but I absolutely had to get back to being happy in the present, so I just allowed myself to go where this process led me. I meditated each day for several weeks, allowing myself to mourn, continuing to release the need. In time, I was able to genuinely surrender. I came to the conclusion that I'd continue to submit my book to publishers myself. But if in the end I was meant only to self-publish and sell at my seminars, then I'd do so joyfully and see the value in the experience alone. I'd pursue my dream, but live with gladness. I shed no more tears because I had truly let go. The interesting thing about the law of paradoxical intent is that truly and finally letting go of the desperation is what brings the results, and my case was no exception. Within a few months of surrendering, I met someone who suggested that I send my book to Hay House. At first, I dismissed this possibility, mainly because I thought that it had already been submitted there. In the stream of disappointing rejections, I'd lost track, but upon finding out that that wasn't the case, I realized that the idea truly appealed to me, because Louise Hay had been such a dynamic influence in my life. Her books got me through some very difficult times, and her songs of affirmation were a lifesaver after my father died, so I decided to give it a try. The process took several months, but since I'd really let go of the urgency, I didn't have the same anxiety as before. In fact, I was so relaxed that I even forgot I'd sent it in. A few months later, though, I learned that my book had been accepted, and I was ecstatic. The dream of being published had come true, but that was only the beginning. I now realized that Hay House was the company that I was meant to be with, the one I resonated with the most. As depressed as I was over those rejections, I understand that I was being protected by the universe. In the past few years, I've met several people who were published by those other companies, and none of them had gotten the personal care or genuine support I've found at Hay House. I'm working with the most wonderful people in the business, genuinely loving and intent on bringing messages of hope, purpose, and peace into the world. I feel as if I have a personal relationship with everyone there. In addition, Hay House publishes my books all over the world. I've received countless letters and emails from throughout the US, Australia, England, Ireland, Singapore, Germany, India, and even Russia and Albania, all from people who wanted to tell me how these principles changed their lives. Those messages mean more to me than I could ever say. They're the manifestation of a desire I've had since I was 12 years old. But I'm convinced that none of these wonderful things would have happened if I hadn't been rejected by those other publishers first. That process of submissions and rejections took nearly 2 years, and I was miserable until I finally let go. But now I know what a blessing that really was. Sometimes the universe doesn't give us exactly what we want when we want it, because there's actually something better down the road. It may be just a happier outcome, or it may be more helpful for our personal growth, or our process in learning just how to trust and let go. In my case, all of these reasons were true. I'm now certain that not being chosen in that first year led to a far better professional outcome for me. But even more important, it gave me the opportunity to deal with my own issues of urgency and control. I had to face my own paradoxical intent head on. I had to learn to live in trust and self-established happiness. It was constantly choosing a present joy that brought the results I wanted, not the other way around. The law of paradoxical intent points out the underlying paradox of personal achievement. You can get what you want by knowing that you don't need it to be happy. It forces you to shift your focus from a desperate intention to a peaceful pursuit. Never send out the energy that you're willing to wait to be happy, just that you're willing to wait for the goal. Needing a particular achievement before you can live with peace and joy creates a desperate energy that's absolute poison to the resonance of success. So be clear about your intentions and fearless in your motivations. Pursue your goals because you want them to enhance an already happy life, not because you'll be miserable without them. When it came to getting my book published, I'd built an entire network of desperate needs without even knowing it. I'd invested my value and even my identity in making it happen, constructing a set of catastrophic outcomes if it didn't. I saw it as an end to my childhood dream, and even as a potential death to my professional happiness. I felt that I'd never again be able to define myself as a writer. But none of this was true because I was already a writer, already engaged in my childhood dream, and I could choose to be happy while working on my goal. My value was secure, and I was in charge of my own self-definition. I had to remind myself that success doesn't depend on any one event. I had to get back to my pure intention, wanting to write in order to share information that I hoped would help people's lives. None of the other things that had seemed so important really mattered, and yet they were all taken care of as soon as I let them go. Journal for success. Use your journal to investigate your list of desires. Answer the following questions to find out what your intentions really are. What are your underlying needs that may be poisoning your process? If you obsess about your need for your goal, you're focusing both your energy and your consciousness on what's missing in your life. What does achieving your goal really mean? Never let your goal be about defining or saving yourself or making you happy. Pursue it for its own sake. Make the choice to define and save yourself and make yourself happy, all at the present time. Be patient and trust in the divine timeline. You live in a universal tapestry where the picture of your destiny comes together according to the threads of your energy, consciousness, and intention. Let yourself weave your future with positive energy, creative consciousness, and pure unconflicted intention about all things. Never obsess about only one option or solution, and let the desperation go. When your major goal is to live with optimism and trust, your other desires will be met. Affirmations to release paradoxical intent. I know that the universe is abundant. All that I desire is available to me. I release desperation. I relax and live with patience, persistence, and peace of mind. I am letting go of lack and choosing to see only the value and blessings in my life from now on. I release urgency and live with trust. I know that as I let go of need, I attract my desires to me. I am practicing the art of surrender. I trust and truly let go.